Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys. And now, in this particular video, we are going to focus on integrating custom tools into your agent. So I hope you have gone through my previous videos, and so far we know how we can use and create and deploy AI agents in Azure AI Foundry. So far, we have not done a lot of code actually with the help of AI agents, but we have used some of the tools like Code Interpreter. I'm sure you remember what is Code Interpreter tool. That is a tool which is helping you to generate code with the help of the language model. Now, we have used Code Interpreter tool in the previous labs, and that's actually working fine. But that's not the solution all the time. Sometimes you have to create your own custom code, and then you need to integrate that custom code into your agent. And how exactly we do this thing? Well, there are multiple ways to do that, but that's what we are going to focus now on. Okay. In this video, I'm going to talk about first how we can integrate the custom tools into your agent. And in that also multiple options are there. And that's what we are going to focus on. So let's get started with this. The first obvious question which you can ask is why we should use a custom tool? Well, there are three main advantages which are visible here. As you can check, the first thing is going to enhance productivity. So basically, in most of the enterprise ready applications, we have a couple of line of code or maybe some of the functionalities which are already developed by other developers or maybe team members, and that is one particular code which I can reuse multiple times. So basically, if you have some kind of a repetitive task or if you have some kind of a logic which maybe you need to use at multiple places, then this is something which is going to enhance productivity because you can automate those repetitive tasks and you can streamline workflows with that. The second advantage is it's going to improve accuracy because you can provide precise and consistent output with explicit code. So when code interpreter is going to generate some code, maybe there are certain things which are not taken care in that, or maybe that's going to have some kind of a wrong assumption based on the instructions. At this time, you can add your custom code with your custom logic, and that's actually going to be more precise and more accurate. The last but important one is you can create tailored solutions. So basically, you can address a specific business need and optimize processes based on that. So there are a couple of projects in which we need to do some specific things for which we need to write a code in various programming languages. In this case, you are actually able to do that thing with these custom tools. Now, there is an example which we are providing here, which is like a user is going to ask an agent about weather condition in a ski resort. Now, when this kind of a input is actually coming to that particular agent, the agent is going to determine that it has an access to the tool that can use an API to get a meteorological information and calls it, because this is something which is a question which a language model cannot answer directly. We need to provide a specific data, we need to provide a specific tool which can actually implement this logic and then provide the solution of that. The tool is going to return the weather report and the agent is going to inform that thing to user. Now we are going to create this kind of agent also in the coming labs, but right now we're just going to focus on something else. One important thing which I want to add on here, guys, this is a very important slide, and this is my past experience that most developers are not able to understand this part. What is this? Please focus on this. This is very, very important, as I mentioned here. Now, one of the concepts which is related to agent and custom tool that developers often have difficulty with is its declarative nature. Remember, your agents are actually having declarative in nature. I hope you have seen this thing that in our previous labs also, whenever I created an agent, I always focus on the instruction section. And based on my instructions, it was actually capable to give me answer. Not only that, it can generate some code, it can download some file. Now all those were actually based on that particular instruction which I'm giving. Same way, your agents are actually in the declarative nature of the solution. You don't need to write a code that explicitly calls your custom tool or functions. This is something which most developers are not able to understand. When they have their own piece of logic, and if we integrate that logic with agent, you don't need to write a code to call and invoke that call actually. That's something which is going to be taken care by agent automatically. So basically the agent itself decide to call the tool function based on the messages in the prompt. And I hope you remember, guys, if you have seen my previous video where I was showing you threads, then in those threads actually we are able to observe that inside a thread we are going to have certain run, and inside the run it is directly showing you when exactly it is calling the tool. So basically whenever tool calling is happening, it's something which is taken care automatically by the agent, and we really don't need to worry about that as a developer. So by providing the agent with the functions that have a meaningful names and well-documented parameter, this is very important. You have to provide a meaningful names and well-documented parameters. With that, the agent can figure out automatically when and how to call the function all by itself. Remember this thing, you don't need to take the pain of calling function. This is very important. Couple of times when we do the labs and all, there are people who do not understand how exactly this function calling is happening, how exactly the agent is connected with my application, and even if it is connected, how it's calling, how it's knowing that when to call that function using the tool. Well, that is something which is a smartness associated with this agent, and they take care of this thing. Okay, so you don't need to worry about that. Now, keeping this in mind, let's focus on the main point, which is what are the options we have available if I want to integrate some custom tool functionalities. Well, there are three options which are available. First, you can use function calling. This is what we are going to see right now in this particular video. And we are going to provide a set of callable functions in your agent with code. Basically, you're going to have multiple languages which are supported with this. We are going to use Python. And using Python, we're going to develop this code step by step. The agent is going to be dynamically identify appropriate functions based on their definitions. Initially, right now, today, we are going to create a simple function, and that one function we want to invoke with that. And in the coming labs, we are going to create multiple functions as well. And then it's useful for integrating custom logic and workflows into AI agent. This is something which we are going to see right now. Now, just for your kind understanding, Open API specification tool is also one of the tools which is helping you to integrate custom tool functionality. If you have checked my previous video in which I'm actually integrating Open API specified tool with my agent, then you should be able to understand that how this tool is actually working and integrating. Now, I have not actually focused in depth on the logical code which I have written inside that in that particular sample, but I strongly recommend you to check out that video first before you actually focus on this code, because that's going to give you an understanding how this custom tool integration is actually working with your application. So to understand end-to-end process, that particular video is something which is going to help you. And to understand the in-depth code, which is actually we are going to build with step-by-step logical code today, you need to understand this video. Now, once we are focusing on function calling right now, the similar kind of thing we can implement with Azure Functions also. So we can provide triggers, we can provide binding, which is actually inbuilt inside every Azure function. And then we want to our agent to call that particular Azure function. And that's something which is also integrated. We are also going to be using this thing in the coming labs. So just stay tuned. We are going to see a lab with Azure function and agent also. Once you do this thing, the advantage which you're getting is it's like it is useful for integrating scalable, event-driven, serverless applications logic into an agent solution. So these are all the advantages of actually Azure Function. If you integrate Azure Function with your agent, then you're actually capably able to handle the serverless kind of an event-driven executions with that. Now, most of the time, if you have developed microservice kind of an application architecture, you have surely used Azure Functions, or you have surely used some trigger-specific executions with that event-driven serverless architecture. Now, if you have done this thing, it's going to be easier for you to integrate that with agent. We are going to see that also, but not in this video. In this video, my focus is on this part. We are going to focus on custom function calling, and everything we are going to do is through code. So yes, I am going to use a code-first approach once again in this video, and we are going to see how we can step by step develop a code which can associate with the custom function. So what are you waiting for, guys? I hope your lab environment is ready. I hope you have installed these four things. First one is Visual Studio Code. Second one is Azure CLI. Third one is a Python. And fourth one is actually Git Desktop. If you have installed these four things, then you will be able to do this particular lab with me. Also, the link of this particular lab with steps is actually given in the description of this video, or we are going to pop out this thing in the video itself, so you can just check out those steps and you can follow that thing. Without wasting time, let's get started with our first custom function calling lab. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching our videos on YouTube and on our website, which is skillset.club. I'm really happy with your comments. I'm really happy with your interactions. Some of you have actually sent me an email also. Some of you have connected a call with me. I'm really happy with the response which I'm getting from this. Still, I want to request you that if possible, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is really going to help us to reach out to more people, and it's also going to help you so that you cannot miss any new updated content which is coming from our side. So thank you so much. Happy learning. Now, as you can see here on my screen, I have opened my Visual Studio Code. Okay, I have installed Git in my local computer right now. And if that is actually done, I close my Visual Studio Code and again open that thing. Now, if you have done this thing, now you can do Control Shift P, or you can just do function F1. You'll get this kind of a command plate. And then here, I'm going to type Git. You can see this time, if I do this thing, I'm getting Git clone. So just make sure you take care of this thing that Git is installed. Then only you'll get this option, which is Git clone. So I'm just going to select Git clone. And now here I have to provide a URL, that which repository I want to copy. I am going to provide a URL of my repository, which is basically not my repository, but it's a repository from MS Learn. So I'm just going to do Control Shift P. Git clone is there. I'll select Git clone and I'm going to paste this URL. Just note down this URL, guys. This is the URL which you can also clone, and you can get all the sample applications into that. I'm hitting enter. It's asking me which directory you want to select as a repository destination. I'm okay with my default directory which is there. So I'm just going to click on select as a repository destination. Once that is done, it's just going to take a few seconds and it's showing me, would you like to open this repository? Yes, I want to click on open. This is also another pop-up which they always ask, that do you really trust this particular author? Yes, I trust. This is the MS Learn repository, so I'm totally okay with that. Yes, I trust the author. That's what I'm clicking. And now this is the first step for almost all the lab which we are going to do now in the next 4 or 5 videos. The first thing is you have to clone the repository, which we did. And after cloning the repository, if you see in the left side section, we have multiple sample applications which are provided here. Now, these are some sample application codes which are available, but it's not something which is fully functional. It's not something which is fully working. We have to build this application step by step. Like right now, we have to focus on this one, which is actually 01, 02, 03. These are different lab samples which are given here. Now we are going to focus on a specific lab sample today, which is actually 03. If you remember in one of the previous video, 02 with Python is something which we have seen. This was creating a simple agent with code first approach. We are going to focus on 03 right now, which is associated with custom function. And that's why the name of the sample is AI agent functions. Inside that, we have a Python folder. And inside that, we have this particular file, which is agent.py. We have environment file, and we also have requirement.txt. We are going to use all this thing. First, what exactly I'm going to do? I am going to click on my environment file. And I need to make sure that this project is going to connect with my project endpoint. Now you can see right now, this is going to be my project endpoint. So I will just go back to my browser where I have tried to create my model. Now, actually, I tried to create my agent first. And because the agent project is successfully created, it's just asking me which model I would like to deploy. For this sample, we are going to use GPT-4o. So I'm selecting GPT-4o here, and then I'm going to click on confirm. I just want to make sure that this is going to choose the same region with a proper capacity. So you can see I'm choosing capacity is 50,000 tokens per minute, and Sweden Central is my region. So I'm okay with this. I'll just click on deploy. Once you do this, this is your first language model which you're deploying inside this particular project, but you can deploy multiple also. So that's something which is totally doable. Now, by default, is going to give me one agent, which is some random name and random number is there. It's showing me agent 396 is actually created right now, but I'm not interested in this agent right now. What I am interested is, I'm interested in this particular overview tab. If I go into the overview tab, this is going to show me my Azure AI Foundry project endpoint. This endpoint is very important for me if I want to develop an agent using code. So I'm going to copy this project endpoint. I'll go back to my Visual Studio Code, and inside the environment file, I'm going to paste my project endpoint. Remember, this is the endpoint which is allowing you to connect this code with that particular Azure AI Foundry project. So I'm just providing that. In the name of model deployment name, I have already selected GPT-4o, and that is already deployed. So just make sure if you have done this thing, you're just going to do Control S for saving this particular file. So this environment file is saved. And GPT-4o is actually my deployment. So if I just cross-check this, it's going to show me in the model plus endpoint in the left side, that this is the name of my deployment, which I have to match it there. So this is what I've done. Going back to Visual Studio Code, let me show you one thing, which is requirements.txt. For every lab sample, requirement.txt file is actually going to have names of those library packages which we need to install. And that is something which we are going to use with this particular file name. How? Well, I will right click on my Python folder. I will open an integrated terminal. So it's going to open this particular folder in terminal. Yep, it is open. And now all I need to do is I am just going to specify pip install. So I'm just going to copy paste one command from my snippet or from that particular link. And I'm just saying pip install requirements.txt. So whatever is there in this particular requirement.txt with my Azure AI projects. When you do this, guys, make sure your Python has to be installed. If Python is not installed, there are chances you're going to get this kind of an error. It's saying that pip is not recognized as the name of the CMD-let. Now, if this is the case, you have to make sure Python is installed. So now this is also, I'm intentionally showing you that if you're getting this issue, the easiest way to fix this is you have to install Python. Let me just pause my video and install that thing. After this, things will work fine. Okay, now I have installed Python in this particular machine, as well as I have closed my Visual Studio Code and again opened that because it was not detecting the installation. So now let's try if it is working or not. I am going to use pip install, same command, and we're going to follow the requirement.txt, and based on that, we're going to install it. So let me just hit enter. Yes, this time you can see that it's actually able to identify that it's downloading all these packages and it's going to install that thing. So just wait for some time. Now there are chances that when you install this thing, it's maybe going to give you some warnings or something like that. But don't worry about that. Warnings are fine. I always say this thing: developers don't care for warnings; they only care for errors. So don't worry about that. If warnings are there, it's fine. Yeah, for me, 2-3 warnings I got. We are okay with that. And yeah, the installation is successfully done. That's the most important line which I was looking for. Now, if Python is installed and these libraries and packages are installed, we are actually good to go and we can just write a code. So remember, the first thing which we have done is we set up our environment variables here. So that is done. And now it's the time we can go and develop our agent. But there is one catch. This time, we are not going to start working on the agent initially. Instead of that, we want to actually create some kind of a custom function. Because the goal is we want to see that how that custom function is going to be associated with my agent code. So let me just go to this particular file, which is userfunction.py. This is a simple function which we are going to create right now. So I have some particular import statement on the top where we are importing some path library and the typing associations with that. And now we are going to create a function to submit a support ticket. Now, why support ticket? We are going to create an agent this time, which is basically going to provide a technical support to my user. So maybe user is going to provide some kind of a technical issue. And based on that information which user is providing, my agent is going to collect the information and is going to submit a support ticket for that user. That kind of a logic which we are trying to build right now with this AI agent. Now, in every sample, I'm actually using a different kind of an agent logic. That's because we want to logically associate with some real-time scenario. So this is a support ticket scenario. Let me just use the code with this. So I am going to provide an initial code right now. So just copy and pasting this thing from that same link, which is actually I have shared in this particular video. So just make sure you're going to use that thing. The moment I do this, is asking me, do you want to install the recommended Python extension for this particular language? I'm going to install this thing. It's no harm installing this thing actually, and it's going to be done within few seconds. This is optional. You don't need this, but yeah, if you do this thing, maybe sometimes it's going to give you a proper identification solutions. So this is fine. It's going to be installed very quickly. Meanwhile, let me focus on the code right now. This is a simple function, submit support ticket. It takes 2 parameters, the email address and the description of the issue. And if this is done, it's actually showing me right now that the logic is very simple. We are going to take some particular directory specific path from that. And from that one, we are trying to focus on the ticket number. Now, actually, whenever we are generating a support ticket, I want some unique number associated with that particular ticket so that I can give it to user. This is the logic to generate that unique number with the UUID with that. And then we are going to save that particular uh, file with that particular ticket with the ticket number .txt. So it's a separate notepad file which is going to be created with this particular logic. And then what exactly will be there inside that file? We are going to have the support ticket, then submitted by person's email address, and the description which he has added inside this. That's it. The logic is very simple. It's going to submit the support ticket with these details, and this is the message JSON, which is basically going to be returned from this function. Now, once we define the function, the next question is how exactly this function is going to be callable? How can we make this function callable? Well, in order to do that thing, I'm just going to put a simple logic at this line number 20, which is we are going to define a user function, which is actually a callable function. And inside that, we are specifying our submit support ticket. Remember, guys, this particular file is right now having my user functions.py. I'm just having one function, but if I want this kind of multiple function logic and I want to make those functions callable, I can actually define same way and I can create multiple callable functions here. So this is only one function in this sample, but you can create multiple also if you want. I'm going to save this file. And now this submit support ticket, which is actually part of my user functions, is what I need to import in my agents.py. So let me just go back to that. I'm going into my agents.py. In the agent.py, I have to add some references on the top. So let me do that. I have added 5 references. Obviously, initial ones are same, which we have used in the previous sample also. Azure Identity, Azure AI Agents, Azure AI Agents.model. These are the things which we have used earlier also. The change is this time we are using function tool. Earlier we have used code interpreter tool, if you remember. This time I'm using function tool with the tool set, which is helping me to associate with multiple tools. And we are also using list sort order and message row kind of thing. And at the end of this, we are also using user function, which is actually that function which we have created, and we are just importing it here. Okay, now after adding this references into this particular code, let's focus on the commented lines. I hope you remember in all these applications, actually, this commented section is actually going to help you to where to paste and then taking care of the indentation of the Python code. Now, the next thing which we are going to do is we are going to focus on connecting to that particular agent client. So you can see right now, we have actually retrieved the value of project endpoint and the model deployment name from our environment configuration file. We are going to use this now. And in order to do that thing, the first thing which we are doing right now is we are just specifying the agent client instance. Now this agent client is actually my class, and this class is actually going to help me to configure with my endpoint and using my credentials. I am specifying my endpoint is nothing but my project endpoint, which we have specified here. And then in the credentials, we are going to use default Azure credentials, which we have used earlier also in the previous sample. Now, because we are using Visual Studio Code this time, we will get the IntelliSense for each method. Now you can see right now, it's showing you all the parameters and exactly what this method is actually doing. So this is also another way to understand that what this particular logic is going to do. After defining the agent client, we are going to use the agent client instance multiple times. So this variable is going to really help me a lot in this full code. Now let's define an agent that can actually use this particular custom function which we have created. And in order to do that thing, I have added this particular code. Now, every time when we want to define the agent, we are going to specify that agent client instance. Using the agent client, the main method which I'm going to call is a create agent. But before we do this thing, I am just specifying some particular properties here. I'm specifying that we have one functions variable where I'm just going to integrate my user function, which we have already imported on the top using the function tool. And then this function is going to be used in this toolset.add. Remember, if you have multiple functions, you can add multiple functions like this. And this toolset is actually capable to hold multiple functions inside that. Once you're done with this, the toolset is actually going to have the function calls. So this is my agent client.enable auto function call with this. Remember, this is that particular logical function which automatically enable tools to invoke that particular function call multiple times. And that is something which I was discussing before starting this particular lab. So if you remember the slide which I've discussed in the starting of the video, that how this function is going to call that thing automatically, well, that is something which is happening because of this particular function here. Now it's a time to create our agent. So I'm giving a name of the agent support agent. This is the name which is perfectly fine because it's going to provide technical support. And in the instructions, I'm specifying that you are a technical support agent when user has a technical issue. You get their email address and a description of the issue. Then you use those values to submit a support ticket. The function is available to you. And then if the file is saved, tell the user the file name so that it can check that file and it can see the information inside that. While using this particular agent, we are specifying the model deployment also, which is nothing but GPT-4o, which we have mentioned on the top. After all these things, the agent is going to be associated with my toolset. So we are just passing the toolset property here. Remember, guys, in this case, the create agent function is actually having so many parameters inside this. So if I just create a bracket here, I'll get the IntelliSense here. And if you check this, it's actually showing you that this is basically your create agent function, and it has multiple parameters inside this. I am passing right now model and some kind of other parameters like instructions and the name, but there are a couple of other parameters which we are not passing right now because these are optional parameters. In the coming modules, when we deal with multiple agents, we will customize these other parameters also. We are done with this. Let's move forward to the next part. You can see right now, exactly below this, we have a simple while loop, which is basically the same kind of a loop which we have seen in the previous example, where we are actually going to ask for a prompt from a user side. And then whatever prompt which is coming from that is going to be counted as my user prompt. If we type quit, it's going to terminate this thing. So that is how it is working. Now let me send the prompt to the agent. This code is more or less similar to the previous sample, so I'm not wasting much time in this, but we are just going to set it up properly. This is a section which is sending a prompt to the agent. So you can see this is the one which is going to create my thread. It's going to create a message, it's going to associate with the thread ID, and then the role for this particular one is a user. So I hope you know there were two roles. One is a user role, another one is agent role. Okay, this is a user role, and you can see the create and process is actually that method which is going to take my thread ID and the agent ID associations with this. So for a particular agent, a particular thread is going to be taking care of this user conversation. Next, let's check for the run status failure. So if something goes wrong, what do you want to do? How do you want to handle the exception handling with this? Now that is something which is happening in this particular code, but I'm just saying that if the run status is failed, then I just want to print that particular error which just happened right now. So that is something which is going to be coming from the run with a specific run. And the next thing is we want to show the response, which is the latest response basically from the agent. So I'm just providing that section also, which is nothing but just going to take the last message, which is received by that particular role, which is the agent role. And then it's going to print that thing with this one. Remember, this time the agent is the role which we are specifying here. So this is my agent role specific messages, and it's going to print the last message, the value of that particular message in this. Finally, another code which is also exactly same like the previous sample is getting the conversational history. It's going to show me all the message history inside this. And if everything is done, we want to make sure that my cleanup section is going to have agent deletion code also. And that is what we are putting here, which is delete agent. Now, these things are exactly same with the previous sample actually, so I'm not explaining this again. If you guys are not familiar with this, I request you to check my previous sample in which we are creating a code first agent in that, and then you'll understand this particular logic. Without wasting time, I'm going to save this particular file, and this is a time we need to observe that whether this application is running fine and it's actually capable to create an agent or not. So now let me just go to my terminal, and I'm just going to execute a command which is az login. Remember guys, because you're running this particular agent creation through code first, you have to do a login with your Azure subscription. I'm going to select my subscription. I'm going to associate that with this particular Visual Studio Code right now. If you have already done this thing, you don't need to do this again. But yeah, I have not done this thing in this computer. So I'm just going to do it once again. I'm choosing my subscription, and I think this is successfully authenticated. If that is done, all I can do is I can clear this thing, and this is the time I want to say whether my application is running or not. So I'm just going to run python agents.py. Now when I do this thing, it's going to run that application. You can see that it's just triggering that particular code right now. This is a moment. It's going to take some time because it's going to create an agent on my Azure AI Foundry portal. It's showing me you are chatting with the support agent with this particular ID. This is the agent ID which I can cross check later on. Enter a prompt. Now I'm just going to say some kind of a prompt, like let's say I'm going to say that I have a slow OS and most process takes a lot of time. So I'm just saying I have a slow OS and most process takes a lot of time. This is my technical issue which I'm submitting here. Now, when I do this, it's actually going to take this as an input, as an issue with this particular support. It's saying that I can help you by submitting the support ticket. Could you please provide your email address? Additionally, let me know if the issue is specific to a certain operating system or device. I'm just going to provide my email address right now. So let's say I'm going to specify at skilltech@gmail.com. And if I hit enter, let's see what it's going to do. It's going to take some time, and yep, you can see that left side I got one file created, and it's showing me that the ticket ID is BB915C, which is visible I think in the file name also, and then the details are saved in this particular file. Now just observe one thing. I have saved the issue that I have slow OS and the most process takes a lot of time. But when I click on the ticket, it's going to be much better. It's going to show me a separate ticket. It's showing me submitted by this email ID, and the description is the operating system performance is slow. The most process takes a significant amount of time to execute, and then assistant is needed to troubleshoot and resolve the issue. You can see the much better description is what they have generated, and then they have given it here. Now all these things, if I want to cross check, I can go back to my Azure AI Foundry portal. I can find out my support agent there. I can click on my threads, and in the my threads, I can maybe check the latest thread which is available here. And then if I try that thread in playground, I'll be able to see the exact execution which happened. So this is going to show me the same thing which I have executed, my user input and the response which I got from the agent. And not only that, if I click on the thread logs, you can see that it's running the steps. It's showing me a function tool call which is happening here. And this tool call is actually calling my custom function. So this is basically calling that custom function, using which it is actually capable to take that email address and the description, and then it is trying to submit that thing as a support ticket, which is saved as this file name.txt. This is all happening through our code. I hope you're able to understand this particular lab. And this way, you can actually customize and you can add some more functionalities also. Like this is my one and only one user function, which is here. You can actually add some more user functions and you can customize that. I hope you like this video. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video. Happy learning.